85-year-old Jewish couple, in love, but the woman has never experienced the pleasure of an orgasm. And so before she dies, she really, really, really wants to experience that. So I go to the rabbi and ask the rabbi if he has any ideas what they can do. And the rabbi says, well, I want you to try this. While you make love to your wife, I want you to have a young, strapping man in the room. And while you make love to your wife, he should wave a towel over her face. This will induce an orgasm. So they're ecstatic to finally have an answer. They run home, and they decide to ask the pool boy if he's willing to accommodate them. And amazingly, he says, okay. So they quickly run up into the bedroom, the three of them. And while the old man is making love to his wife, the pool boy's waving the towel very gently. And after 12, 15 minutes, nothing's happening. The old man's exhausted. Woman's not having an orgasm, and they give up. So they go to the rabbi the next day and they say, Rabbi, it didn't work. Do you have any other ideas? And the rabbi says, well, there's one other thing. I want you should switch. Have the pool boy make love to your wife, and you should wave the towel. So they run home. They'll ask the pool boy if he's willing to do them one small additional favor. And amazingly, astoundingly, he says he's willing to do it. So they run up into the bedroom. The pool boy gets on top of the woman. The old man is waving the towel. Within 15 seconds, she has an explosive orgasm. She's curling her toes. She's scratching his back. She's moaning. She's screaming. And through the moans and through the screams, the old man is yelling at the pool boy. He goes, you see, that's the way you wave a towel. This guy checks into a hotel room with his family, and he gives the clerk his credit card and his ID and everything. The clerk gives him his room key, tells him how to get to it, when breakfast is served, where the elevator is, and thanks him for his stay. And before he leaves, he leans over to the clerk and he whispers to him, I hope the porn in the room is disabled. And the clerk looks at him and says, it's regular porn, you sick fuck. So this guy's standing at the urinal, and he notices over his shoulder somebody's kind of hovering. So he turns around and he sees the guy standing there. And the guy's got no arms. So he finishes his business. He turns to the guy and says, can I help you? And the guy says, yeah, if you don't mind, can you unzip my fly? So he's sure, what's he going to do? The guy's got no arms. So he unzips his fly. And of course, the next question is, do you mind taking my penis out and holding it while I urinate? So in for a penny, in for a pound, he says, sure, I'll do it for you. So he's standing there, he's holding the guy's penis, and he notices while he's holding his penis, the penis is like got crusty bits all around it. And in between the crusts, pus is oozing out, and it's enveloped in this moss, this film around the entire penis, and it smells putrid. He's never smelled anything like it. And he can't believe he's in this position. He's got to be standing there holding this thing. And the guy finishes, so he shakes his penis off, he puts it away, zips his fly, and he turns to him and says, listen, I hope you don't mind me asking you this. I feel really bad, but what's the matter with your penis? The guy puts his arms in his sleeve and says, I don't know, but I'm not touching it. So this guy goes into a deli to order a sandwich, and he's looking behind the glass to see what kinds of meats they have. And in between all the stacks of meat, he sees boxes of salt, which seems really odd to him. So he looks up and he sees the deli guy, and behind the deli guy, there's 3 shelves filled with salt. And between him and the deli guy, there's boxes of salt all along the counter there. So he thinks it's kind of weird, and he turns to the guy and says, wow, I've never been in a deli that sold so much salt. You must be a great salt salesman. And the deli guy goes, not me. But the guy who sells me salt, boy, can he sell salt. Dr. Finkelstein is a world-renowned cardiologist. And one day he gets a phone call in his office. The small town he grew up in is going to have a major relaunch. And they want him to be the keynote speaker. And he, of course, says yes. And he goes to his town, and he checks into the hotel, and he has a great night. He goes to the main event, and there are all these speeches and all these dignitaries and all this media. And he finally gets up there to give his keynote address. And he puts his papers on the podium. And before he begins, the papers just all fall down. They fall down onto the floor. And he bends down to pick them up, and he turns his butt towards the mic. And as he bends over, he lets out an enormous fart. It reverberates throughout the auditorium. And he's so embarrassed, he just grabs his papers and he runs out of the auditorium, promising never go back to his small town again. Well, 20 years later, his mother passes away. And he checks into the hotel under an assumed name. And the clerk says to him, "Oh, so glad to have you here. Have you been here before?" And he says, "Yeah, I've been here before." And the clerk says, "Well, what was it, was it recent?" And the clerk says, "Oh, it was like a long time ago. I don't remember exactly when." The clerk says, "Well, I'm just curious, like, how recent was it? Like, was it before the Fimmelstein fart or after the Fimmelstein fart?" This old man's in the hospital and he's dying. His wife comes to visit him and he says to her, he says, "Listen, if I don't make it, I want you to know underneath my side of the bed is all of our stocks, our bonds, all the valuables, everything I've collected. You should be fine. I just want to just reassure me. You go home, check tonight that it's there and you found it and you'll be okay." So she goes home and she opens the box and she sees stock certificates and bonds worth more than $1 million, $60 in cash, and 3 kernels of corn. She's a little bit puzzled by this. So when she goes to see him the next day, he quickly says to her, "You found the stocks and bonds and everything?" She says, yeah, I found everything. Thank you so much. You've always been a great provider. We appreciate it so much. She says, "But I also found 3 kernels of corn. What's with the 3 kernels of corn?" She says, "Well, I wasn't always faithful. And if you could forgive me, every time I was unfaithful, I'd take 1 kernel of corn and put it in the box. That was my reminder that I strayed. I hope you can just forgive me for it. I'm sorry to have to tell you about this now." So she thinks about it. They've been married for 50 years, 3 strays, he's dying. She says, "Okay, I understand. Of course I forgive you." He says, "Oh, thank you." And she says, "Well, what's with the $60 in cash?" And he says, "Well, when corn hit $20 a bushel, I had to sell." So there's a newlywed old Jewish couple. They're both on their second marriage. They're on their honeymoon. They're in the honeymoon suite. And before they get into bed, the woman excuses herself. She goes to the bathroom. She comes out a few seconds later wearing nothing but black panties. And her husband turns to her and says, "What's with the black panties?" She says, "Well, my entire body is yours. I'm entirely yours. But down here, I'm still in mourning. My husband died." So the next night she goes to the bathroom again. She comes out with black panties, same excuse. "My husband died. I'm entirely yours, but down here I'm still in mourning." And the third night she comes out and she notices when she comes out of the bathroom, her husband is wearing a black condom. So she says, "Moish, what's with the condom?" And he says, "I'm getting ready to pay a shiva call."
Happy 60th birthday, Dad. We love you.